Okay, I'm here with a very familiar face, Jessica Vaughn, here at the CIS event. And Jessica, it's nice to have someone who recognizes me when I was down here today.
Good to see you. I'm so glad you could come.
Now, your presentation, I got a kick out of, and I want to touch on something you said at the beginning, how people were a little bit taken aback because of your background, how you got into this, and you talked about having to deal with people who try to deceive you. Is there a lot of deception in the way this issue is presented?
Yes, there is a lot of deception in the way this issue is presented, and I think that's because, at least for many of the reporters who are covering immigration, sometimes they are chosen for the beat of immigration because they are themselves immigrants or kids of immigrants, or they feel an affinity for the immigration issue because of their family's experience, and that tends to color their reporting in that their assumption is that they and their family are great immigrants, and that must mean that what we need is always more immigration. And so they
Well, during the debates, it's every immigration question seemed to be asked by a Latino reporter, and I thought that was remarkably racist when I was watching them. It was rather astounding.
Well, it shows a certain assumption that, our immigration policy is for the immigrants. When in fact, our approach in our research is to try to find out what kind of immigration policies benefit the nation as a whole. And there's this untold story of immigration policies' effects on Americans, whether it's in terms of job opportunities or what their tax bill is, or even the safety of their community that they live in. All of these are affected by our immigration policy, and that whole angle is missed by most beat immigration reporters.
Now, you also talked about the statistics and how the statistics have been handled and changed. And really, is that all a question of like making a model and looking for a result rather than looking for a fact?
In the case of the enforcement statistics that have been manipulated by the Obama administration, it was done for the purpose of creating a narrative that the federal government was doing the best it could to enforce immigration, but that was not succeeding in reducing immigration, so therefore we needed to move on to just accepting the fact that we have to have an amnesty. That was the purpose of that narrative. It turned out that they needed to manipulate statistics to complete that narrative, but most Americans living in their communities could tell that really wasn't accurate. It wasn't reflecting what they saw and were experiencing.
Now, you've talked a lot about your job is basically to inform people, that you're constantly getting people calling you looking for answers to questions. Now, is that because they know that you will find the right answers, or is it just a question of why should we bother checking for the facts when we know Jessica is here?
Well, I'd like to think it was the former, because they know that I've studied the issue for a long time, that I spend a lot of time delving into the government statistics on immigration, both visas and benefits, but also enforcement, and that not many other people have. So, and I've also in recent years published things that were not appearing anywhere else, and got access to documents, whether through FOIA or through sources that simply had not been released to the public before. As the latest example is on sanctuary cities. Through a FOIA request that I did, learned that there are more than 300 sanctuary jurisdictions that were obstructing immigration enforcement. That's something any reporter could have done,
but reporters didn't.
No.
And it's kind of sad. If there's one misconception about immigration and immigration laws that the public doesn't know, I'm not even going to talk about reporters, but the public doesn't know, what comes to your mind if there's one thing you would really want to inform the public about so they could understand what's going on?
And that's the assumption that immigration is an unqualified good for our country, and that there's no such thing as having too much of a good thing, when in fact the picture is much more complicated. Really, there are winners and losers as a result of our immigration policy.
As my father always said, everything costs something. And where can people find more information from you online, or to contact you if they're going to write a story and they want to get that information that they don't want to bother researching themselves?
The easiest way is www.cis.org. I'm also on Twitter at Jessica_V_CIS, it's at Jessica V_CIS. My email address is jmv@cis.org.
Well, I got to say, I liked your presentation. In fact, I liked the entire conference. Jessica Vaughn, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for coming.
Great to be here.